playing in the major leagues is so much more attainable than I ever thought it was. That sounds so weird to say because podcasting is the hardest medium to grow. People all the time ask me, how do you monetize your podcast? And actually, my podcast is one of the reasons I got the job for the Baltimore Orioles. I've never lost a client because they couldn't afford it.
Like I feel scared of doing that inside of my business. Welcome to the Cincinnati Business Podcast, where we give you practical tips and tricks to grow yourself and your business. And brought to you by the Cincinnati Podcast Studio. So Patrick, glad to have you here, man. This is going to be fun. I'm curious about what got you into the world of baseball.
Well, first off, thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
This whole setup is awesome. It's great. Obviously, as a podcaster myself, I love this stuff, but what got me into baseball, I just starting to play at a young age. I really only played baseball and basketball growing up, and I kind of eventually saw that, basketball probably wasn't going to be the thing. I probably wasn't going to be going very far. And
you got the height though.
Yeah. I mean, but again, at 6'3" there's a lot of, 6'7", 6'8" guys out there. So
yeah.
Ended up just sticking with baseball and loved that. Ended up getting a scholarship to Xavier University and playing baseball there and just really enjoyed it. And it's kind of, it's honestly been the one thing that I've stuck with and loved since day one. So that's been it. And I've known pretty much nothing else. And it's been a ton of fun. I've been able to go travel the country. I've been able to meet people all over the place from all different types of life, and ended up coaching, becoming a hitting coach in the Baltimore Orioles organization. And so now you're working with players who are from Latin America and who don't have the resources that we have here and that you take for granted. And it's easy to take for granted. And it's eye-opening to be able to work with some of those players. And so that was a great experience. And so it's been able to bring me so many different places and so many different walks of life. It's been awesome.
I love it. Now, you were playing at Xavier, and eventually you did a little bit of, I guess, what some would call like AA ball, right? Like
it's called independent professional baseball.
Yeah,
and it's essentially it's not affiliated with a major league organization. It's separate from that. But I wouldn't say a lot. There's a good amount of players who will go to this independent professional baseball leagues. There's several leagues, and then if they do well, they'll get signed by a major league organization.
Okay.
And then there's also at the same time, there's the major league organizations, the minor leagues, guys who get released, they'll go to independent professional baseball, these leagues. And it's a little bit different because these leagues are designed to win now, whereas the minor leagues is more so about development. They don't really care as much about winning. So they'll sign guys and release guys. It's pretty cutthroat in these independent leagues because the managers are hired and fired based on wins and losses. So it's a different element, but it's about winning, which is if you like winning and if you're about that, then you'll enjoy that environment.
Yeah. So for us locals here in Cincinnati, that would be like the Florence Y'alls.
Exactly.
Or like Dayton Dragons would be?
No, Dayton Dragons are affiliated with the Reds.
Okay, they are affiliated with the Reds.
So it'd be Florence Y'alls would be the closest thing.
That makes sense. Interesting. So then here you are. Were you playing independent baseball before you got brought into work in Baltimore? Yeah,
I did that. I did it for 2 years after I graduated from Xavier. And then after that second year, I remember during that second year, I was like, I need to do something else. I was 25 years old. I was like, I could see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting into coaching, ended up coaching at Madeira High School. I was a JV head coach. I was the only coach on the staff for the JV team. That was it. Just me. My buddy was the varsity coach and he needed help. So I ended up being the JV coach and I loved it. And to this day, that was the most fun I've ever had coaching a team because there was no rules really. You could do whatever you wanted. There was no expectations because just the level of play and things like that. But it was a ton of fun and just ended up doing that and coaching travel and giving lessons and starting my podcast. And actually my podcast is one of the reasons I got the job for the Baltimore Orioles because and this is, again, I only know baseball, so I can't talk about what corporate world's like and business world, anything like that. But what I know is that a lot of the organizations, they like people who have a growth mindset and are curious and just quite frankly don't think they know everything. And so what ended up happening was I would go to these conferences across the country because I love learning and I wanted to continue to get better as a coach. And so I just started making connections with people and interviewing people on the podcast that I started, which when I started coaching high school is when I started the podcast. And I met somebody who recommended me to the Orioles who had just cleaned house and were looking for new coaches to be able to come in and implement, whatever the philosophy we were going to have would be. And the assistant GM started listening to my podcast and just liked the fact that I was open to new things, because that's a big problem in our game is just you got guys who played, they think they know everything, and we're just going to do the exact same thing every year because that's the way we did it the year before. And so that was one of the reasons I actually ended up getting the job was because of the podcast.
Well, then let's back up a step then. Like, why did you start the podcast in the first place?
Because I didn't know anything about coaching. And so I thought, what's the quickest way I can get to know something about anything, in this instance, coaching, without spending years and years and years trial and error? How can I get access to people who are way above me and cut to the chase of exactly what I want to know? And so I just figured at the time, I just start a podcast and start interviewing people. And I was on social media and never been afraid to reach out and ask for help and things like that. So I would just reach out to different coaches that I admired or thought they knew something that would benefit me, and started interviewing my podcast so I could learn at a much faster rate than just trial and error by myself.
Well, that's genius.
Yeah, at the time I didn't think it was genius. I just thought, well, this is just common sense. But looking back, yeah, I mean, the podcast has benefited me in a ton of different ways. I would say networking has got to be the top. I mean, it's got to be number one. I've had 375 episodes now, so that's 375 people I've met from professional baseball, major leagues, minor leagues, college baseball, every division, college baseball, high school baseball, travel baseball, players. I mean, just scouts, everything.
Wow.
And then also I have a newsletter too. In my newsletter, I have way more subscribers. I think I have like 17 or 18,000 subscribers that will read the weekly newsletter. The podcast doesn't do nearly as many downloads, but what it does do is it builds trust at such a higher rate. And so it's kind of what I do is I'll just filter people in my funnel. And so it's like, okay, I have social media, and I'll take them from social media, subscribe to the newsletter, go to the newsletter, get them to the podcast. Once I get them to the podcast, now they're listening to me in their earbuds, not probably doing anything else for an hour. And you do that every week, you're going to build trust. So that's kind of, again, did I think of it like that? No. Did I go about it probably the right way? No, but that's the way it is. It should be. And you do that for a long enough time and you're able to meet some really cool people. That both the GM for the Orioles is a great example. So you may not, I only had maybe 1,000 people listening to it, but I had one who was the assistant GM of the Baltimore Orioles, ended up getting me a job, which ended up changing the trajectory of my career.
Yeah.
So it really is not about how many people listen to podcasts. The only way that would matter is if you're trying to go and you guys know this better than I do probably, but if you're trying to go the wide route of Joe Rogan, just try to get as many people as possible to listen to your podcast and interview all types of people and all types, and you're trying to get sponsors and that type of a thing, that makes sense. But if you're not doing that, then I mean, worrying about downloads is irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even check them anymore. I don't. It's been years since I checked them. When I first started, I was checking them every week. I hit refresh so many times, and like, this is a waste of time after some point.
So then, why have you kept it up? Like, why? So obviously, it got you that job at the Orioles, and that's, I mean, a dream job for a lot of people to get to work for a big franchise like that.
Yeah.
What made you say, I want to keep this thing going?
Yeah, and I actually continued to do the podcast during the season with the Orioles. So
Cool.
we'd be on the road, and I'd get up a little bit earlier, and I'd already have the outline done of the episode. For me, it was just it was a hobby. It was something to get away from day to day. And I enjoy it. I enjoy creating content. I enjoy just meeting new people, learning from new people. So I think that's probably the biggest reason why I've continued with it, is I, quite frankly, just enjoy it. It took a long time for me to see any type of return on the podcast from a business standpoint, if we're talking strictly monetary use. But in the meantime, I was like, I just enjoyed it. It was cool. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun. And so that's why I honestly just continue to do it. And I was like, and I'm one of those people, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I can show up and I can do it every single week. So it's like, well, this is my low hanging fruit that if I do this, then I'll be able to get to another level. So I'll just keep showing up every single week. Cause I think what are the statistics on podcasts are crazy in terms of how many people stop recording after 10 episodes or 15 episodes. I mean, it's like 95%. So I was like, well, I'm sure there's people more talented, but I'll keep uploading them. I don't know if people will listen or not.
Man, that's cool. So let's get into a little bit of the time at the Orioles real quick. I'm just curious, like, what's one of your favorite stories to tell people from your time there?
One of the things that I don't even know if this is necessarily a story. It was more of something that I just observed. It was more of an observation. But you look at the best players in the world, and some of the guys that I was able to work with at the time in the minor leagues are now doing great. I mean, Gunnar Henderson was one of them. And so it's like, okay, you observe these guys when they were 19 years old in the minor leagues. And the biggest takeaway, and this is what I tell kids now, is you see these guys on TV and you think that they're just not even from this planet, right? They're just not even from this planet. But the thing is, what I took away is, when I left, I thought to myself, playing in the major leagues is so much more attainable than I ever thought it was. That sounds so weird to say because of the data and the statistics, but I say that because every single player has anxiety and fear. And I was just able to see that behind the scenes. And so I was able to see that some of the best players in the world and a 12-year-old are very similar, and just human, the way the brain works, and fear and anxiety and all these different things. And so that was the biggest takeaway.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's not something you tend to think about. You put these people on a pedestal and they're like, oh, you are the Babe Ruth of this generation or the whatever. And like, no, this guy's probably just anxious, hoping that he's going to do well the next game. Like,
he's scared to death walking up to the plate a lot of times. I mean, I had Michael Kadire on my podcast, who is not a Hall of Famer, but he played 15 years in the big leagues. He made $80 million. He was an all-star. He's told me there was not one at-bat, not a single at-bat in his 15-year career where he walked up to the plate and he wasn't nervous and scared.
It's interesting how that learning kind of seems to be what you've come to help other people with. Because now you stepped out of working for the Orioles, and did you start your consulting company right after that? Well, so Patrick Jones Baseball, is that what?
So I was doing hitting for a while.
Okay.
And I still have a cage, and I have every piece of tech you could possibly imagine here and things like that. But I kind of, when I was with the Orioles, I was able to also help with the draft for the 2 years I was there. And so I really love the scouting side, the evaluation side. And so what I ended up doing, I was like, I like the hitting. It was fun, but I wanted something that was going to be a bigger challenge. And I also just looked out too, from an entrepreneur standpoint. I was like, what's the biggest problem that's out there right now? There's so many hitting coaches out there, and it's a zero-sum game in the sense of what may work for one versus another. I mean, who knows? You could be the best hitting coach for one kid. I could be the best for another kid. It's hard to become the best hitting coach, I guess is what I'm saying. Whereas in the recruiting landscape, there's so many people out there, so many families out there who need help in the recruiting process because they don't know what's going on. And so I just thought to myself, like, this is going to be a much better avenue, I think, an avenue where I know a lot about. I have the connections because of the podcast, which has allowed me to have connections all across the country. And I think it's something that I'll just be able to make a much bigger impact in long term. So I ended up making that transition into doing the recruiting consultation, or just recruiting service is what I call it, and been doing that full time now.
Wow. So that's cool. So then in a way, what I think of in those moments is like, you got these high schoolers who are loving life. They're loving what they get to do, but they're thinking about, okay, how do I go to the next level? And so people find someone like you who can then say, hey, I can help you get to the point that you want to get to. At least try.
Yeah.
We can at least see, like, I've got the connections, I've got the leads. And I love that your podcast turned into that. Like,
I know, yeah.
Like that.
Never
so
in a million
great.
years did I think that was what was going to happen. But
yeah,
when I started out,
but it was just a hobby and then turned into a business.
Yep.
It's incredible how podcasting creates a platform.
Well, I think the other thing too is people all the time ask me, how do you monetize your podcast? How do you, I was like, I make money indirectly from the podcast. Like, I don't make money. If you want to look at strictly dollars and cents on my spreadsheet, I lose money on the podcast from just uploading it and editing or whatever it is. But I make money indirectly from the people who listen to it. And so I think that's a thing that you have to play the long game. If you play the long game, it's worth the investment. And I say the long game, it's consistently playing the long game, where it's like, it's also the promotional piece of it as well to grow it and things like that, and make it a little bit better. And you got to commit years. It can't be one of those 10 episode things. You're not going to get a return on that.
That's interesting. Why do you say that?
Because podcasting is the hardest medium to grow. There's nothing harder in media to grow than a podcast. Because of, now there's a lot of different reasons why there's a lot more podcasts out there, but it's people's time. I'm on Twitter, and, I think right now I have 23 or 24,000 people following me. There's people, you don't have to, that's not a big investment to follow me or to read one of my tweets. It doesn't take up much of your time, but because you can do that, we could be having a conversation, we can do all this multitasking or whatever. But to convince someone to give up an hour of their time and do nothing else except listen to your podcast, one, they got to find your podcast. Two, you got to be somebody that they're interested in, or it's got to be an episode or whatever it is that they're interested in, that they're going to listen. And then also it's, they got to actually pull the trigger and listen to it too, and do it. Now, once you have them, if you do a good job and it's a good content and you give away a lot of stuff, you'll keep them around for sure. But that's why I think it takes such a long time to grow. And it's the hardest thing to grow. My newsletter, within a year, I had 17,000 subscribers. It's been 7 years. I still don't have 17,000 downloads per episode, my podcast. And I actually don't care, for all the reasons that I said earlier, because it's not about how many for podcasts. I just care who are listening.
Yeah.
If I have the right audience listening, I don't need a lot.
Josh is in the studio over there just nodding his head saying, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So you're talking about people finding your show. Mm-hmm. You've done this now for 7 years. And I love how you created a podcast and then you built your business around the podcast.
I know,
I think that is genius. A lot of people say, hey, let's either add on a podcast to a brand, or let's create a podcast and build and sell the podcast. Like, that's the thing that makes me the money, which is very, very hard to do. Yeah. So I'm curious, what did you do to get found early on?
What I would do is I would invite the guests on, and in my space, the baseball space, Twitter is the main thing. That's where all the coaches are. And
it seems like all sports right now.
That's where a lot on Twitter. And so I would just have them share the episode when it would come out, and I would do promotional stuff and things like that too. And so I would do that, and then I would obviously promote it as well. And then eventually, again, that's why you got to do it for a long enough period of time. It's word of mouth. I'll go to different conventions and things like that, and people will come up to me and be like, "Oh yeah, like my buddy got me onto your podcast or told me about your podcast or whatever." And so that's how it ends up growing the fastest is word of mouth more than anything else.
Yeah.
So early on, it was the promotional stuff, and then you do it long enough, it's word of mouth.
Have you found that you have some weird sort of celebrity following you where people like come up to you saying they know you, like because of your show, because of your because of your following, that sort of thing?
I've had different people say that they listen to the show and things like that who I never thought would, and different coaches or people high up in front offices and things like that too, which is awesome. I mean, you never think that would be the thing, but again, that's why it's so powerful. It's like you have that high up person, whatever it is, for an hour, and it's just you talking, or if you're interviewing somebody, just back and forth. And the thing is I've had so many people, I'll be at different events and I'll start talking to somebody else, and then someone will turn around and they recognized my voice. and so that's how we ended up, meeting or things like that too. So
Yeah.
I think that's another element too. You don't get that by any other type of media out there.
So selfishly, I'm curious, what are your thoughts about video for podcasting now, since that's such a big push for so many people?
I think that's great from a content standpoint. I think because again, you need to actively promote the podcast, but you can also utilize that video to promote your services within your business too. And once you talk about it on the podcast, it also shows that maybe you're someone who has networked well and has connections within the industry, which that's one of the things that has helped me in my recruiting services. If I don't know a college coach, what I'll do, because you want to build relationships. You don't want to, I think of always everything is just playing the long game. I want to build relationships. And so what's the best way to build a relationship? For me, I invite the coach on my podcast. And so I'll interview the coach. I'll get to know more about their program. We stay in touch, things like that. So down the road, if I have a player I think would be a good fit for them, I've already got that relationship now. And so looking ahead, maybe I might have a player 6 months down the road that I see that they might be a good fit for this particular program, or they're interested in that program. I'll reach out to that coach now, 6 months before I reach out about a player he might be interested in, to develop that relationship now in order to help that player I have down the road.
So I've heard in the world of podcasting that people have gotten wise to the idea of just inviting somebody onto a show, and and now people are charging things like speaker fees and appearance fees and those sort of things. Like, are you running into that when you're doing your show? Or is it still, because of your reputation, you're able to just bring somebody on and have a conversation?
Yeah, I've never run into that, just because the guests that come on are coaches.
Yeah.
They're not, first of all, I don't even know if there's NCAA rules and regulations when it comes to some of that stuff too. So I don't even know if they'd even be allowed, even if they wanted to charge.
That's true.
And quite frankly, I mean, I wouldn't have them on if they did charge. Not because of any other reason other than I was like, well, I'll just do a solo episode this week or something like that. So I've never run into that, but have you said you hear that more?
It's pretty common. We've got people who are in our studio who they charge thousands of dollars for speaker fees when they come onto a show. But I think the reason I asked that question is because it seems like certain people have recognized that, hey, come be on my podcast is a subtle way to try and sell people sometimes. It's kind of this like, I want a relationship with you so you trust me, and then eventually you might be able to buy me or refer me to somebody who can buy from me.
Yeah, I think for me, this is one of the things that is beneficial for having people on is I'm promoting their program by them coming on.
Yeah.
So they're selling, because my audience are mainly players, coaches, and parents. And so these coaches, who are they trying to get? They're trying to get the best players possible. They're trying to get players to want to come to their program. Well, what better way than sitting down and having an hour conversation and talking about your program, what you guys do, how you do it, getting to know your own personality, your own background as a coach. So a lot of coaches will take the podcast, and if they have a recruit or somebody that they're looking at, they'll send them the podcast. So it's very valuable to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that ahead of time too.
That's nice. Yeah. That's great. Here's a question for you. How did you find the last podcast that you listened to? Was it recommended by a friend? Did you see an ad for it? Or what about a short clip online that made you want to listen more? Here at the Cincinnati Podcast Studio, we help you produce your own podcast. And with your show, we create up to 8 clips per episode to help you reach your audience faster. These clips are short, engaging, and with catchy subtitles because we know your audience is probably scrolling on their phone, muted on the toilet. If you've been wanting to start or upgrade your podcast, check us out at CincinnatiPodcastStudio.com. So you said you were doing this for a couple years before you ever actually made any money off your show.
Several years.
What did that first time that you start to make some money off the show look like for you?
I would have somebody reach out to me who said, for at the time I was maybe like working with a hitter, giving hitting lessons or something like that, saying that they listen to the podcast, they like the podcast. Even the people who were working with me at the time liked the fact that I was learning and that I was continuing. I wasn't just teaching their kids the exact same thing over and over again. Like I was constantly researching and learning new things too. So I think it helped the clients that I had as well because they would listen to it. And so again, that builds more of a relationship as well. But I think that the main thing was just I'd have people start reaching out, wanting to work with me after they'd listened to the podcast and that type of a thing. And then also, I think maybe people, if they were on the fence, they would see, listen to the podcast. They'd look at everything else that I have on social media, website, things like that too. And be like, okay, he's legit. We'll reach out to him.
That's cool. Yeah. It is a legitimacy builder.
Yes.
That is for sure.
Yes.
And the ability that you have to be able to bring on names such as college coaches and stuff like that, like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So back to kind of your story a little bit. So you were leaving the Orioles, you were doing some hitting stuff, and then you said, I kind of see this hole in the market of like a for-hire recruiter kind of thing. How did you notice that hole?
Well, I think that maybe I should have said this story. When I was in high school, I remember the stress of the recruiting process as a high school player and as a family too. Like my parents didn't come from a baseball background or anything. And so they had no idea how to help me in the recruiting process. And so from just even like most high school kids, I thought I was better than I actually was. And I thought I should be going to SEC when I wasn't good enough. But my parents didn't know. And I had some talent, some potential. And so what I needed was a third party to come in and just give me objective information of where I was at. These are the this is where realistically you could go to school. If you want to get to this upper level, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And then I actually used the recruiting service in high school. I won't say the name or anything like that, but they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. And so my parents paid money. We did all this stuff. And so honestly, at first I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this recruiting stuff because in the back of my mind, I had this experience. And so that was how I affiliated a recruiting service, was the experience that I had in high school. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. I don't know how much valuable this could be. And so that ended up being, looking back, I think me struggling so much in the recruiting process was one of the reasons that I did want to do this and to give back, because we had no idea what we were doing. And it caused a lot of stress and a lot of money spent that didn't need to be spent.
That makes sense. So like, talk me through what specifically do you do for these students that are now contracting you?
What I do is I reach out to college coaches on their behalf. And so what I mean by that is I'll evaluate the player via video or in person, depending on where they're at. I'll speak with the family and we'll talk about, where do they want to go to school? What type of tuition do they need to stay under per year? What level do I think they'd be a good fit for them? And then once we have a list of schools that we'll come up with and agree on, I'll start reaching out to those coaches one by one to see if they're looking for that specific position that the player is, because if they're not, then we're just wasting time. And then if they are, introducing them to the player that I have, because I already know a lot of the schools, because each school has, and each coach likes different types of players.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some schools that like left-handed hitters. There's some schools who like pitchers who have, are just slider heavy or high vertical break on their fastball or whatever it is. And so it's targeting those schools in the back of my mind as well. And then once we have those, I'm just connecting the two and then educating the player on how to talk to the coach from there.
So it's actually a big game of you build the trust with these coaches and then they trust your opinion at least enough to take a look.
Yes. And then eventually going and watching the player play in person.
Yeah.
So like summer's coming up, like my summer's booked because I'll be at tournaments, and then I know what coaches are going to be at what tournaments. And then I let them know the players that I think will be a good fit for them to go and watch those specific players.
That's so. When you talked about the old recruiting company that did nothing for you when you were in high school, like what are some of the ways that you structured your business to try to make sure that people don't feel that way?
I would say one, constant contact, communication, just honesty, the honesty factor of where things are at. What's the timeline going to be like? I think there's times where there's going to be a lot going on. And then I tell you, there's going to be times when there's nothing going on. It's just a dead time. Don't think that you're doing anything wrong. Nothing's wrong at all. That's just the way it is, the way it works. And so I think that's the first thing. The other thing is just actually reaching out to these coaches and having conversations with the coaches about that specific player. And I think that's the thing that I didn't necessarily get. And it's, it's something that obviously it worked out in the end, but that's just something that's why I don't take on, I don't want to have 1,000 clients because I can't service 1,000 clients. And so it's taking us on a select few and just doing it as the best job you possibly can with them.
Have you had any big wins getting kids placed in some pretty awesome positions since doing this? Yeah,
I have had some big wins. I've had players who have started out at Division II schools, done well, and then gone the transfer portal and now are starting at Power 4 schools.
Wow.
I've had players who, maybe went to a junior college and I started working with them at a junior college and in the middle of nowhere and able to get them. And now they're starting at a Division I school. And then I've had kids out of high school just go and go to a Division I school or Division II, Division III. It doesn't matter, and have success right out of the gate and be able to play and have a great experience from an academic and athletic standpoint.
Now, do you help them at all, like with a plan beyond college, or is it generally just to try and get a high schooler to a college team in some way?
What do you mean plan B?
Well, so like you did, like getting into independent baseball or even to the major leagues. Like, is there any conversations?
So yes, I've had players who have done very well and are looking to maybe sign professionally. What I do at that point, because that's a separate process of becoming an actual agent and things like that. And quite frankly, I don't really want to deal with that. There's a lot of shady stuff goes on. So I actually have a few different people that I'll recommend them to if that's the route that they want to take, who I trust and I think do a really good job as an agent.
Awesome. But you're watching some of that talent happen right now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. I mean, have you ever because how long have you been doing this again?
I've been doing the recruiting service for 4 years.
4 years. Okay. Yeah. So, have you seen any of the ones that you've helped actually get to that point of being in the major leagues?
Not in the major leagues, minor leagues, yes. Not major leagues yet. And even the minor leagues, that's one of the takeaways I had when I was in the Baltimore Orioles organization is I remember walking away being like, if I had a kid in high school, I would never let them sign and go play professionally. It is so hard and you have to be so mature to be able to live on your own and do nothing else. And it's just also such a long shot too. So was my big takeaway. Now, of course, if you're a first round pick, if you're a freak of nature, all that stuff for sure. But by and large, it was so easy to look at everybody and be able to tell who was drafted out of high school, who was drafted out of college. The college guys, they're picking up trash in the dugout. They're running to their position. They're hustling. They're doing stuff. The high school guys are walking around. They're leaving stuff behind them. I mean, it's so obvious the difference between the two.
Well, I mean, it's big difference when you start in it's just you're young and you don't know a lot better. And then when people keep telling you, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing.
It's easy to believe the hype.
It is. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Man. So this is really interesting then. So then you've built this business, you've been doing it for 4 years and had seen some really cool success with the way that you've connected players and still through all of it, you keep podcasting. I love it. I mean, you've basically seen that as a way of life. I was commenting and it didn't make sense in my head earlier, but your logo literally has a podcast microphone in it.
Yeah. When I first started, I mean, I remember who designed this logo. It was a lady I found online. She lives in India.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought, I mean, I was like, I never thought I'd be doing any of this stuff. I just thought podcast, this is awesome. This is cool. It's 2017 at the time. And so, yeah, I was like, let's do it. This is great. It was a ton of fun. And I didn't make any money, like I said, for a long time and lived at home. And there were so many hours spent into it. And looking back, it was good investment. But at the time, I don't know. I don't even know what I was thinking. I just thought it was cool, honestly.
Well, there's something to that, that ability to be a little bit naive.
Yeah.
And just like, oh, I just want to do this.
Exactly. And then the older I get, the more I dive into that. And it's less about what makes the most sense from a numbers and business standpoint. And it's like, I just want to follow my curiosity. And when I follow my curiosity, I'm happier. I do good work. And a lot of times, do I make more money? Probably. But even if it was the same or a little bit less, who cares? If I'm going to be doing this for the next 50 years, I got to be in the game for 50 years. And I'm not going to be in the game if I burn myself out. So following your curiosity, I think, is important.
That's really good.
I was listening to someone the other day talk about you should work 10% less of what you do right now so you can sustain for the next decades and decades and decades. And I always did the exact opposite. Looking back, that was the right advice. And I'm taking that advice now.
That's amazing. Well, amazing that you were willing to spend some of that percentage here with us.
Yeah, no, this is the type of stuff that I think is fun and it's different. I mean, sure, I could be on my computer all day long working, doing recruiting stuff today, but I have tomorrow. I have the next day. I have the next day. It's like, what are we racing for?
Yeah.
When I first started, I was racing. I think you're just worried about not being able to make a living when you first start out, which I get because you haven't proven yourself or anything. But it's honestly kind of impossible to fail if you just stick with it for a long enough period of time and you're consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. So then for the parents who are listening to this podcast, who've got kids who are potentially looking at going to college, playing college ball, like what are some of the tips that you like to give everybody as they're looking at their kids and potentially evaluating if they're going to be a really talented athlete?
A lot of things. Every situation is very specific, so context has to be applied to that. I would say, if we're just being generically, like I always like to give advice if I had a kid. So like what I would recommend for my own son. So if let's say I had a son who was a freshman in high school right now, we wouldn't be worried about going to camps and doing all this stuff. We would do one showcase per year, a company called Prep Baseball Report. That's what we do. One Prep Baseball Report showcase per year. That's it. And then the rest will be focusing on skills, development, grades, all that kind of stuff. Once sophomore year hits, same thing. We're just going to do one PBR showcase, and then we'll start the conversation of colleges. We'll start talking about different schools. From an evaluation standpoint, a big part of it's going to be where they're at. What do they want to do? Do they want to be a high academic student and go to the best school possible? Do they want to potentially get drafted and play professionally? Do they want to just have the well-rounded college experience? Because once you realize where you want to go, then you can reverse engineer. It's like now we know the plan to get there. But if you don't have the plan, then you might be using somebody else's plan that isn't necessary for you. And now we're wasting time and money and things like that too. So the most important question to ask yourself is, what's the end goal?
That's good. I really like that. And then what do you then say to the families who might be the really busy ones, the ones who are like constantly on the road, constantly playing games all over? Like, is that necessary to try and make it to that higher level of baseball?
No, that's not necessary. I've got a few different opinions on that. I think that there's several things. I talked to one dad one time, and he was one of those dads, and they went everywhere. They went to all these camps. They drove around everywhere, and I was like, man, what are you doing? You're wasting all this money doing all that stuff. He goes, it's an excuse to hang out with my kid. We have 8 hours together in the car together. At 16, 17 years old, they're out of the house soon. Like, we're not going to be able to get this one-on-one time. I was like, that is I can live with that. Like, that makes sense to me. So there's that element of it. There's the FOMO. There's just understanding human psychology, and people are envious more than they are greedy. And so someone else gets an offer or whatever. We got to start doing X, Y, and Z, go everywhere. So I think that's a big part of it as well. But, and also I think, and I tell myself this too, sometimes the hardest thing to do is nothing. It's nothing. It's just to keep doing exactly what we're doing. It's just, yes, there's all these showcases, all these camps we see online, all this stuff. We don't need to be doing that. A lot of the players that I work with, I would say it's a plan. They do way less stuff than anybody else because it's going to be specific for them. I'm reaching out to the college coaches ahead of time to see who's looking for their position. And if they're not even looking for their position, we don't need to go to the camp. It's a waste of time. And then if they are looking, then it's like, hey, would you be interested in this player? And then sending them video of that too. So doing that, and then understanding timelines too. There's still coaches right now who will leave spots open for late bloomers, even at the Division I level. But how do you know what programs those are? I mean, I can't tweet about that. I can't say this specific program. I'll just give an example. This isn't them. Like, University of Arizona is still looking for a 2025 shortstop, right-handed hitting shorts. I can't do that. That's giving each school is like their own business, and so I can't be giving out secrets of their business. So it's hard to give specific advice to parents because of that. But I would say do less.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It feels like the conventional wisdom is do more.
Yeah.
Would you say that you would apply that as well to your own business?
Yeah. I was thinking about making a t-shirt for myself saying do less, period, better. Because what I end up doing, and this is because I like learning and I like technology. I mean, there's so many different things that I enjoy, is you start doing way too many things, and which is great. But you become good at a lot of things. You don't ever become great. And so that's one of the things why I stopped doing the hitting stuff, and I'm doing nothing except college baseball recruiting. Focus one thing, become great at one thing.
Interesting. So when you were starting your business, of doing all this recruiting stuff, what did you have to say no to try and grow your business to what it is now?
Well, here's an example. Is what I used to do is, and hopefully nobody who's listening to this or watching this was one of these people, but I used to let just anybody and everybody book a Calendly link and time to talk with me. I got so many unqualified leads and people who wouldn't even show up for the meetings and things like that. And I was like, I can't be doing this. So I started charging for that. And so what that did is that qualified leads. I knew you were serious if you were going to pay $60 to just have a conversation with me about whether or not my recruiting service could be a good fit for you. Whereas before it was just anybody and everybody. So that's one example of what I've learned over time and how it's helped me in my business.
Interesting. Now, I feel inside of me, like that feels like I feel scared of doing that inside of my business. But what brought you to the point of being able to say, like, hey, no, you got to pay for my time no matter when you connect with me like that?
Well, I wouldn't say, and it's not about the $60, actually. I don't care about, it's $60. I don't care about the $60. I want people who are serious, because I'm serious about this. And so if you're just want general information, or because right now I'm a one-man band, I have to be very protective of my time and energy, because I have clients I have to service to, and I'm doing a lot of different things. And so I only want people who are serious about doing this recruiting thing and interested in this process. And so that just qualifies people. If you don't put anything down at all, then maybe you don't show up. And I'll be honest, I'm guilty of that too. There's been stuff that's happened where like HubSpot, for example, like I'll put on a calendar link for HubSpot and something comes up and I don't even show up to me because I don't have anything invested into it. If they would have said, you got to pay $60, I would have been at that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll be honest, I thought about even charging more.
Wow. That's really smart.
Yeah. And it's worked.
Huh. And a lot of people would love to say, oh, we'll give away free, like, yeah, free time with me. Of course. That's like the get it. And like, no, people want to know that this is valuable and they want to pay for it.
And I take it serious. I live, eat, and breathe this stuff. And I only want to be around people who are the same way. And so, and that's the other thing too, from a business standpoint, I can't help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to work with everybody. There's some people out there, the people who I have bent over back for and gone and this and this and this, the least thankful people. It's always like that. And so honestly, the more you charge too, the better the clients you're going to get.
Yeah.
So you'll like this story being a business owner. I was on a call the other day with a parent, and after the call, they sent me a message on Twitter and said, hey, did you say it was 5,500 or 55,000 was your service? And I was like, that depends. And so I was like, you deal with different people. And I think the more you charge, the better the client you get.
Mm-hmm.
I've never lost out on a client because they couldn't afford it. Every time I've said, if someone says I can't afford it, I'd be like, what can you afford? Let's make it work. Nothing.
That's interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Huh.
I also have never had somebody, I've never met with somebody who didn't sign up within 2 weeks of me meeting with them. So that's why I really don't do follow-ups or anything. I used to do that all the time. And the way I've thought about it is, if you are interested and you want to work with me and you see the vision and everything, and it's like, you're in. And if not, no worries, but there's a surplus of people out there.
Wow. What an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
Huh. That is incredible. Cause honestly, I'm always the sort of guy like, oh, what if they forgot? Let me reach back out. But like, if they forgot, then they don't care.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I'll give, I'm a data guy. I like making decisions based on anecdotes and also data too. And I needed a bunch of data to be able to sit back and realize this. But I was like, wait a second, look at all these kids I've ever had. How long did it take them to actually pull the trigger? It was within 2 weeks of me meeting with them. Nothing was longer than that. So then I was like, well, I'm not going to worry about all these follow-up strategies and convincing people. And no, people who are in are in.
That blows my mind.
It's not what you're not taught that. And it's not, no sales people teach that. Cause I'm on social media. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on marketing and sales and all that stuff. I've bought it all. And at the end of the day, I'm going to go with my own gut and what I've seen work with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true, because back in the day, I used to manage a large team of volunteers. And I remember, like, in those days when I had an abundance mindset, I always tried to scare away people from serving with me, because I knew that if I couldn't scare them away, then they would be awesome teammates to be with. They would serve well. They would work well. And so in the same way, you're kind of doing the same. You're like, if you're not ready to sign up right away, pretty much, then great. More power to you. Have a good time. I'll see you again next time. Yeah. Like that's fantastic.
You make more money long-term doing that way, because the people who work with you, they're more understanding if things come up and just anything you do, they're so grateful. Anything you do. I mean, like, dude, that took me 2 seconds. Like, what do you know what I mean? Like, oh, thank you so much, or this or that. And so it's just noticing that as well over time.
Yeah, because in the end, they're paying for your experience and for your knowledge. And even if it may take you 2 seconds, Like for us, we know that a normal podcast for a lot of people could take hours and hours and hours to edit.
Oh yeah.
For us, it takes a matter of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And people ask, hey, why do you charge so much? And it's like, because we're really good at what we do.
Yeah.
We make great content.
Yeah.
And so you're not paying us for the amount of hours that we spent on it. You're paying it for the fact that we can do it that quickly for you.
Well, you're paying for the fact that it took you guys both combined 30,000 hours that you've been working in this space, learning every little tool and gadget and making the mistakes and wasting time and everything else. So it only does take you 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same concept in what I do. And anybody does too. It's like someone said, so we're going to be paying you for that amount for this amount of months. Like, it's not a time thing. Like, you're not paying me for how long it takes me to do it. You're paying me for the fact that I can pick up my phone, I can send a text message to, name a school, and the coach will read it and trust what I have to say and then take action on it.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, that took me years and years to be able to get to that point.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then because of your podcast, other coaches started to get to know you.
That's how the trust builds up. Because there's so many coaches I'll message now who I don't know. And I'll say, I have a player might be interested in your school, blah, blah. Love your podcast. It's helped me so much. It's been awesome. Yeah. And so that trust.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something about building a platform around trust is incredible. That one of the values we have here at the podcast studio is no more faceless companies. Like, that's like our mission statement. And so for us, we're like, if we have the ability to help more people connect with another person that they can find trustworthy, instead of like a big faceless corporation style thing, then that's a win. And that's exactly what you've built your entire business off of, is the fact that you are Patrick Jones, and you get Patrick Jones on the podcast. You get Patrick Jones when I text you. Like, you're the same person through and through, and your clients get that. And I think that's a huge value add that you get to add to them.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And the only issue is eventually it just becomes like you only have so much time.
Yeah.
You can only help so many people.
Yeah. All right. I've got one last question for you. So I think we're now in the second season of the shot clock, not the shot clock, the pitch clock.
Yes.
What do you think about that in the world of baseball?
I think overall it's good for the game because it was getting ridiculous on how long people would take. But the other part of me is there's an art to hitting, there's an art to the game as well, and thinking is a big part of it. And so you don't want to also take that away, and not having that clock. When you didn't have that clock, that was a part of the game. But I think overall, long term, it was good for the game. I think it was necessary. When I was in the minor leagues coaching, there'd be some games to be over 4 hours. And then the next day we had another game be like, it would be over 4 hours.
Yeah.
And be like, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. And you guys can't throw strikes. I mean, it was just so, yes, there had to be something to speed the game up. So I actually am a fan of that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I would agree. I've been to some of those games where like we're 3 extra innings and like just it's been so long, and I'm just like, I don't even want to stay any longer.
Yeah,
like I'm just
unless you're obsessed with baseball and you're just a baseball purist and you love everything about it.
Yeah.
We got to get the game moving, because most of the people who are paying money aren't that. They're not obsessed with every single little thing about the game.
Well, that's the thing that I've been feeling about football. Like football in person, I personally believe, this is maybe an unpopular opinion, I think football in person is boring.
Really?
Because like the amount of play time that you're there for like 3 hours is only 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But when you're watching it on TV, they found really great ways to fill that empty time.
That's a good point. And you can do stuff too on TV or eating and around other people.
And I feel like baseball hasn't mastered that the same way football has yet.
No. The Savannah, have you ever heard of the Savannah Bananas?
I love the Savannah Bananas.
So actually, you're going to like this.
Okay.
This fits in. So I know their head coach, Tyler Gillum. I had him on my podcast several years ago when he was a college coach. I saw him at a conference in Washington, D.C. I said, hey, man, we got to get you back on the podcast. He goes, we're coming to Cincinnati in June.
Yes.
Let's do it at the stadium.
Yes.
And I was like, well, maybe we could even come here and do it. Honestly, it'd be kind of cool. But he's like, yeah, we'll have you in the dugout, the game,
Dude.
all this stuff. I'm a little nervous. I don't want to be getting in that bat or anything and embarrass myself. But
dude, I'm jealous. I when I heard that they were coming to the area and they were already sold out of tickets, I'm like, gosh darn
crazy.
It. I know.
Yes.
That's so, dude, you're gonna have to tell us all about that because that's gonna be incredible.
It'll be fun. I think it'll be fun. Yeah.
Do you know who they're playing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I know that a lot of people, when they originally pitched the Savannah Bananas to me, like when they were explaining, it's like the Harlem Globetrotters, but for baseball. But I'm like, no, this is a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's insane. I don't get how they can just pack a stadium every single time. But every clip I've ever seen of anything they do is so interesting.
It's awesome.
It's amazing.
It's awesome. It is separate. I mean, it's just different. And I think part of it, I like it too, is that Tyler's an awesome guy. And
yeah.
He's just a really good dude too. So I like supporting good people.
Yeah.
So I think that's a part of it as well. But I also just like people who think differently and do differently.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all power to a guy who wears a yellow suit all day.
Exactly. Yeah. Was it Cole? Jesse Cole, I think is his name.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. What a man.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Patrick, this has been amazing. Now thanks, for the final thing we do in every episode. Yep. That's your camera. Give everybody a 30-second pitch as if they haven't heard from you before and how they can get in contact with you.
Yeah, so my name is Patrick Jones. I'm the founder of Patrick Jones Baseball, and it's a college baseball recruiting service. And we help guide families throughout the college baseball recruiting process. So you can just head to my website, patrickjonesbaseball.com, and you'll be able to find the form to fill out if you want to sign up for a time to meet with me and see if we're a good fit to work together.
Awesome. And your podcast?
Podcast is called Patrick Jones Baseball. It's on all the podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify. I think 375 episodes to date. So if you're just finding it, you have a lot of time to catch up on.
And some pretty cool names on there too.
Yes, very cool names. It's been awesome. It's been a ton of fun. The names and people we've been able to, I've been able to interview, and looking forward to a lot more, honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're cheering you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening to the Cincinnati Business Podcast. If you like the show, the best way to support us is to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you fantastic content just like this. And if you are a greater Cincinnati-based business owner who has something you want to share with the world, reach out to me at brian@cincinnatipodcaststudio.com.